Hello, dear students. I welcome you all on behalf of Sri Jayendra Rank Zone classes. Dear student, we are in a continuation of the chapter that is plant growth and development. And in plant growth and development, we are at the almost a last topic. And in this, we are going to discuss that two phenomena, important phenomena, are responsible for the flowering to occur in case of angiosperm. And one is photoperiodism, and another one is the vernalization, which we are going to discuss into this lecture. So, photoperiodism. As the name suggests, photoperiod means light period, means a different plant required a different light period for their flowering. Okay, and what minimum light and what maximum light period is required, that we have to discuss in this particular part. So photoperiodism is, if we describe, the flowering response shown by a plant to a period of day and night is known as photoperiodism. A flowering response means how much day period is required. So that particular requirement of light period and the phenomena dealing with this, that is known as photoperiodism. So here you can see that in the photoperiodism, suppose the flowering is occurring in the first reaction, that is here you can see, but dark period is more and flowering is occurring here. If this light period is exceeded, the vegetative phase, then flowering is not occurring. And same way, if dark period is broken by light, then also flowering is not occurring. Since means the particular efficient light period or dark period are required by different plants for their photoperiodism. How they are required, what is the purpose of that, that we are going to discuss here. So it has been observed that some plant required a periodic exposure to a light for inducing flowering. Obviously, they require, some require a short light period, some require a low light period. Then only the flowering can happen. And it is also seen that such plants are able to measure the duration of exposure of light. Means such plants have a capacity to measure the duration of exposure of light as well. So at last, what is photoperiodism? We have understood. It is a flowering response shown by a plant to the period of day and night. That is a photoperiodism. And in this, the photoperiod or light period is known as photoperiod or scotoperiod. So some plant required exposure of light for a period exceeding a well-defined critical duration. Means some plants need a light period more than a particular critical duration, then only they can flower, while others must be exposed to light for a period less than that critical duration. Means if these plants are given a light duration lower than that particular critical duration, then they are going to flower, or a flowering is going to be initiated then. So some require more than a critical period, some period require a less than a critical duration of light period for the flowering, and they influence the flowering. So based on this, the plants are classified on the basis of photoperiod required for the flowering into the three groups, that is a short day plant, long day plant, and the day neutral plant. Okay. Now, so this is the flowering. Obviously, a light is provided, then they are going to flower. So there can be three types of plant as we have discussed now: short day plant, long day plant, and the, we can say, the day neutral plant. These are the short day plant. So we can call them long night plant because day period is going to be short, but long period, night period is going to be long. So in that, the vegetative period or light period should be short. You can see this is light period and dark period is long. Critical night length, and they have a short duration of light than the critical night period, then they are going to flowering. Yes, but same way, the critical duration is flower is more than the flowering plant, then they are not going to flower. Same because direct direction is not, long night is not there. And same way, the long night, particularly night duration is increased by breaking the light period, then the flowering can occur. But in long day plant or short night plant, particularly short day plant, you can see this is the sorry, this is light period, this is dark period. So in this light period is exceeding then the short critical range, then is not going to flower. But particularly shorter than the critical range, then it is flowering. And shorter than the critical range, and but the light period is going to break by the darken. Okay, so dark period is not more, so they are going to not flower. But in long day plant, the long night period is required, which is not here available, so it is not going to flower. Here it is available, so it is Here it is particularly exceeding the particular one and short night plants, but night plant is more, and so it is not going to flower. Here in long day plant we can say this particular thing is there, and it is broken. Night period is broken by light period. The short night plant is exhibiting this one, so it is flowering. So we will discuss this particular plant. Means from this what we are getting into understood that short day plant are required a light period lower than the critical period, and the long day plant need a light period more larger than the critical period. That is we are getting understood here. So there are many plants, however, where there is no such correlation between the exposure of light duration and the induction of flowering, that such plants are called a day neutral plant. So the critical duration is different from different plants also. So it is known that not only the duration of the light period but the duration of dark period is also equal importance. And it is observed that flowering in certain plant depends not only on a combination of light or dark exposures, but also the relative duration also. Okay, so you can see here, this is the NCRT diagram. A long day plant is that this is a critical photo period. If it is getting more light period than the this critical period, then they are going to flower. If they are getting the light period lower than the critical photo period, they are not going to flower. But here short day plant, if they are getting lower than the shorter particular critical photo period, then they are going to flower. But if they are getting more light, light short day plant is not more light is obtained, then they are going to not flower, and day neutral plant are not affected. Okay, so the site now, the photoperiodic stimulus, the light stimulus is receiving and it is influencing plants. So the site of perception of light duration are the leaves, and it has been hypothesized that there is a hormone substance which is known as fluorescent getting synthesized, and that is responsible for the flowering, and it is synthesized in the leaves and then transported to the different parts. Okay, so if this is a shoot apex and it is going to flower, then the formation hormone take place, and from these hormone get transported to the shoot apex. From here it is transported to shoot apex and it causes the flowering. So this hormone substance migrate from the leaves to the shoot apices for the induction of flowering only when the plants are exposed to the necessary inductive photoperiod. Means whatever the necessary light period is required, if that is provided, this substance gets synthesized in the leaves and then transport to the shoot apices. Okay, like this it is going to transfer. Okay, so now we understood that this is the photoperiodism, and if we talk, then we should understand that photoperiodism was first studied by was first studied by Garner and Allard. Garner and Allard in 1920, and they observed that Maryland mammoth Maryland mammoth variety of tobacco could be made to flower could be made to flower in summer by reducing light hours with artificial darkening. And obviously, it could be made to remain vegetative in winter by providing extra light. So, as we have discussed, on the basis of photoperiodic response to flowering, plants are divided into following categories. First, we are going to discuss SLP, that is short day plant or long night plants. So, short day plants or long night plants here we are going to discuss. So, short day plant or long night plant, we can say. So obviously, if a day is going to be short, light is going to be long. So this short day plant, they flower when the photo period or day length is below a critical period. Okay. So if a light period below to the critical photo period is going to be obtained, and these plants are going to flower. So critical photo period is that continuous duration of light which must not be exceeded in short day plant. Okay, that is known as critical period. Okay, and example if we talk, then most of winter flowering plants, and in that if we talk about the examples, then examples are the known examples are the xanthium, which is also known as cockleber, then chrysanthemum, cosmos, ester, dahlia, rice, sugarcane, potato, tobacco, soybean, and strawberry varieties. This all plants belong to the short day category, short day plant category. Okay, so they need a short day period. So if we talk about something like this, if you want to understand, suppose this is a short day plant and they are getting particularly a 24-hour light period. In this, they are getting 0 to 9 hours of light period, and they are getting a dark period of 9 to 24 hours. Then obviously they are getting a day period that is lesser, and they are getting 9 hours the critical duration. So if they are getting a particular, suppose 9, this is a critical duration, and if they are getting a light hours less than this, then they are going to flower. So flowering occur. But if we short day plant, and if we give a particularly like this 0 to 9 hour of light period, and then we give a dark period, but if dark period is broken by the light period, then they are not going to flower. No flowering if it is broken by light period, then it is not no flowering. Okay, and that is obviously white light means continuous dark period. Continuous night is also necessary for photosynthesis. So continuous long night are also necessary for flowering in short day plant. Okay. Now let us discuss the another category, that is a long day plant. These long day plants are also known as LDP, or simply they are also known as short night plants. Okay, now long day plant, in this they flower when they receive when they receive long photo period or light hours above the critical photo period. So this plant get a light period exceeding or more than the critical photo period. And if we talk about the examples of the long day plant, then examples are henbane, which is also known as Hyoscyamus niger, then wheat, oat, sugar beet, spinach, radish, barley, larkspur, and lettuce. These all are a particularly long day plant, and they period a long day continuous period. Third category is the day neutral plant. These day neutral plants, if we talk, they flower within a definite range of light hours. Flowering does not take place above or below this range. And if we talk about example, sorry, these are the flowering plants, definite range of, they are intermediate day plant. Okay, so they are not day neutral plant. I'm sorry, I'm removing this. These are the indefinite range plants. Okay, so those which flower in the definite range of light and flowering does not take place above and below these range, they are the known as intermediate day plants, like this. Okay, and the example of the intermediate day plants is the wild kidney bean. Okay, then the fourth category is DNP, that is day neutral plants. This day neutral plant, they can blossom or flower throughout the year. And if you talk about the examples of the day neutral plant, they are the tomato, pepper, cucumber, pea varieties, sunflower, maize, cotton, etc. These all are the day neutral plants. Now the next category is short long day plant. Short long day plants. Now they require short photo period for initiation of flowering and long photo period for blossoming. Okay, so these are the short day plant. Short long day plant means short day period is required for the initiation of flowering, but the actual blossoming, actual flowering occur in the long photo period. The example of this particular plant is Petcus variety of rye. The next category is long short day plant. In long short day plant, if we talk, they require long photo periods for floral initiation and short photo period for blossoming. And the examples of long short day plant are known is bryophyllum. Okay, so they require a long photo period for the initiation of flowering, but actual flowering takes place in the short photo period. They are known as long short day plants. Okay, so this is the what particularly thing. Now, now we have to understand the concept that how this photo period is affecting the particular flowering. What is the chemical substance? How they are particularly playing the role in this? Okay, so to understand that, we have to understand that light sensitive pigment is responsible for this particular thing. So, if we talk about this, then we remember that now mechanism when we understand behind the flowering photoperiodism, then first we have to understand the phytochrome. And it is known that a light phytochrome, it is light sensitive pigment responsible for flowering induction. Well, for flowering induction and present in leaves. Okay, so it is responsible for flowering induction and present in the leaves. Now it is known that this phytochrome exists in two forms, that is PR and PFR. PR is phytochrome red and PFR is a phytochrome far red, and both are interchangeable or reversible to each other. Okay, so if you talk about them, PR and PFR. Now PR absorb, actually PFR is an active form. which control majority physiological processes, and PFR is inactive form. Now, what takes place? PR absorb a red light then of 660 nanometer, then get converted into PFR. And when PFR get a light or far red light of 730 nanometer, then this PFR get converted into the what PR. But when there is a darkness, in dark also the PFR get converted into PR. Okay. So if we talk about a short day plant, they required a long night period, and if long night period are there, the PR is going to be more in them. So PAR upon PFR ratio is going to be greater than 1 for this particularly we can say the short day plant. Okay, whereas for long day plant means in short night plant, long day plant means short dark period means long day period will be means PFR will be more. So PFR upon PR ratio greater than going to be 1. If this ratio are maintained, then these are responsible for flowering. Okay, so this is the thing which actually occur during the PR and PFR thing. Okay, now so stimulation of critical photoperiod is perceived by leaves, and it is obviously transmitted to the shoot apex where the particularly we can say uh, flowering is induced. So it is known that florizon is a hypothetical hormone which is not isolated yet from plant, which migrate from leaves to shoot apices and induce flowering. Okay, so that is the thing. So if we talk about the short day plant and long day plant, and if we understand the major things, and when multiple response are given, if we according to this, as we have discussed in short day plant, if the short day period is obtained, means 0 to 9 hours of light is there, and then there is a darkness. Okay, then they are going to flower. But if it is a short day plant, and as we have discussed, this dark period is broken by any light period, then long night are going to be disturbed, so no flowering. Then in this also, this is going to be white light. If 0 to 9 hour of light period is given, and 9 to 24 hours is dark period, but in that also dark period is broken by, you can say, a red light, and then the PFR going to be get accumulated, and PFR upon PR ratio is going to be 1, that is not responsible for the flower, so no flowering in short day plant. Same way if we take another some conditions. Now for the same short day plant, if you see 0 to 9 hours of 0 to 9 hours of light period, and the dark period of 9 to 24, but in dark period, this dark period is going to be break by a far red light. If it is broken up by the far red light, then flowering take place. Why? Because far red light will promote a PR formation, and if PR get accumulated, PR upon PFR ratio is going to be greater than 1. So if the same 0 to 9 hours of light period is there, and then we are giving a dark period, and dark period first we are breaking it with the red, then with the far red, and then again we are breaking it with the red, then what will happen? Obviously, so first when we give a red, the FR will get accumulated, then we will give far red, then PR get accumulated, and then when we give last red, then the PFR get accumulated, and PFR get accumulated, there will be a no flowering. So if in multiple responses the last response is going to decide it, okay. So in the last response, if the R is given, then no flowering will be there. If far red light will be given, then the flowering can take place. Okay. So this way, the particularly end will decide. Okay. Now, same way, if it is a long day plant, then suppose 0 to 13 hours of light period, 14 hours of light period, the long day plant day period is given, and 14 to 10 hours of dark period is there. If such thing is observed, then the flowering will occur. But if in the same thing, if 0 to 14 hours of day period is there and dark period is there, if day period is broken by a artificial darkening, then long day period will be broken up and short day it get converted into short day period. Okay. So in such cases, what will happen? There will be a no flowering. If 0 to 14 hours of light period is there, and in 24 hours if we talk, it is a dark period. If dark period is broken by the light, means light period is going to be increased. If light period get increased, then flowering occur. Okay. So this way, in long day plant, particularly specifically, we can say that long day period are important and short night are important. Okay. So this is the thing with respect to, we can say, this long day plant. So in this case, the flowering take place. So in long day plant, the period of darkness should be shorter than a critical dark period. Light exposure during the dark does not inhibit flowering in long day plant, but rather light is during dark. Okay, does not affect the flowering. Okay, or does not inhibit the flowering, but rather it promises a flowering. They also come to flower in alternate short light and still shorter day period. Long day plants can flower even when exposed to continuous light. Hence, long day plant are also called as short night plants. Okay, so this is the thing which is occur in case of the particularly, we can say, the photoperiodism. Okay, now after this, another topic which we have, that is in this particular flowering, that is vernalization. Okay. And vernalization, if we talk, it is obviously the method of inducing early flowering in plant by pre-treatment of seeds or a young shoot at a low temperature, that is called as vernalization. And vernalization means the requirement of low temperature for the flowering. So if low temperature get available and low temperature is provided to the particular plant seeds, and then they are shown, then they are going to flower early. So the time period, total time period which is required for the plant, that can be reduced. Okay. And obviously it is a low temperature requirement. So low temperature treatment, that is 0 to 5 degrees Celsius is done. Okay. So in low temperature, the temperature which is provided here is 0 to 5 degrees Celsius. Now, important food plants, wheat, barley, rye have two kind of varieties. If you want to understand this fertilization, then many plants do not come to flower before they experience a low temperature. So these plants remain vegetative during the warm season, receive a low temperature during the winter, grow further, and then bear a flower and fruit. So when the winter requirement get over, then only they are going to flower. So requirement of low temperature prevent the, particularly we can say, precautions early reproductive development in the ovum. So to understand this, suppose wheat, barley, and rye are the annual plants have two kinds of variety, that is winter variety and spring variety. Now let's understand. So the spring variety is normally planted in the spring and they come to flower and produce grain before the end of the growing season. Winter variety, however, if planted in the spring, they would normally fail to produce a mature grain within a span of flower. Now, why this is going to take place, that we have to understand here. Let's understand it. So we have to understand these things, then we have to know 6 seasons of the Indian terrain. Okay. So we know that first what happens, spring comes, then summer, then monsoon, then autumn, then pre-winter, then winter, and then again spring. So what this spring variety is normally planted in spring and come to flower and produce a grain before the end of growing season. Means in spring they are going to flower and give it seed. Winter variety, however, if planted in spring, if this is winter variety, this should be grown in the winter. But if it is going to be planted in the spring, they would normally fail and not going to produce a mature grain, because if they are planted in the spring, then further the winter they are not going to encounter further winter. So if they are not going to encounter the winter, then it will not flower. Because of this, they are not going to flower. So hence they are planted in autumn. So if they are planted in autumn, then they will go through the pre-winter, then winter, and they again germinate, and over winter they come out as a small seedling. They resume growth in the spring and are harvested around the midsummer. So such a way the growth continues. Okay, and such a way if growth continues, then we can say the particularly happens. So this is what we can say vernalization. Okay, so I hope you understood this vernalization. Now another example of fertilization is in biennial plants. Biennial are monocarpic plants. They normally flower and die in the second season. Means biennial plant means their lifespan is going to be over in the within the 2 years. Okay. So sugar beet, cabbage, carrot are some of the common biennial plants. Subjecting the growing biennial plant to a cold treatment stimulates substance in the photoperiodic response and the flowering takes place. Okay. So this is the what particularly take place in the case of the in biennial plants. Okay, so we have to note some more important point. Then we remember that this is vernalization is also known as yerovization. First thing. Second thing, it was found by Lysenko in 1928. Okay, Russian worker. That the cold requiring annual and biennial plants can be made to flower in one growing season by providing low temperature treatment to the young plant or mentioned seed. We call this effect as a chilling treatment, or we can say the vernalization. Now, So vernalization is therefore a process of shortening of juvenile or vegetative period. So we can say, what is vernalization? Vernalization is considered as a process of shortening of the juvenile or vegetative phase and hastening flowering or speed up of flowering by previous cold treatment. Now the question is, what is the site of vernalization? So if we talk about a site for vernalization, then dear student, the stimulus of low temperature is perceived only by meristematic cells, that is shoot tip, embryo tip, root apex, developing leaves, etc. These all are going to be a particularly what a site of vernalization. So now the question is, what is the requirement of this particular vernalization? So if we talk about the requirements for the vernalization, then as we have discussed, the low temperature is required. So the first requirement is low temperature, and that is 0 degree to 5 degrees Celsius. Okay, and low temperature should not be immediately followed by a very high temperature, about 40 degrees Celsius. Otherwise, it will nullify the effect of this particular low temperature. Okay. Okay. Second, the period of low temperature that should be from few hours to few days. Then third is actively dividing cells are needed. Then fourth is water, proper water is needed. Then fifth is aerobic respiration. Okay, so these all things are particularly available, then this particular fermentation can take place. So if we talk about the mechanism, then the stimulus is obviously received by the actively dividing cells of the shoot or embryo tip. Then it travels to water, all parts of the plant, and prepare it to flower. So the stimulus has been named as vernalin. Okay, so vernalin is also a hypothetical hormone synthesized in response to low temperature. Okay, so it can be passed from one plant to another plant through the grafting as well. Okay, so this is the what particularly we can say the vernalization. Now, what are the importance of vernalization that we have to discuss? So last we are going to talk about importance of Vernalization. If we talk about the importance of fertilization, first, it can help in shortening the juvenile or vegetative period, of plant and bring about early flowering. Okay. Second, it is not applicable to temperate plants, but also to some tropical plants like wheat, rice, millet, cotton. To all this fertilization is not applicable. Okay. And third importance is it increases yield resistance to cold and diseases. And fourth is kernel wrinkles of critical can be removed by vernalization. Okay, so these are the what importance of vernalization. That is all about the what vernalization. So most appropriate temperature for vernalization is between obviously 0 to 5 degrees Celsius. Then in vernalization, the cotton stimulus is perceived by obviously it is going to be perceived by the Michael bird. Okay, so that is all about the vernalization, photoperiodism, and that is all about the what plant growth and development. I hope you understood well. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.